Dear friends in the Dhamma, the rebellious mind. No religion is higher than the truth. The Dharma stands above all religions as the unique, leading, guiding principle in all the religions. I also make a distinction between Buddhism and Dhammism. Buddhism is the Dharma plus the culture. So we get the Sri Lankan Buddhism, Theravada Buddhism, Chinese and Zen Buddhism. Even the Buddha respected the Dharma like his own teacher. Once he said to Ananda, "Ananda, let it be known, the Dharma is my teacher." It is also said that one of the qualities of the Dharma is ehipassiko, which means come and see, find out for yourself. Showing again that the Dharma is based on practice and there's no belief or no blind belief involved. We do have a word in Buddhism called sattha, which is often translated as belief. But it is not a blind belief, it is a belief based on experience, more like confidence in your practice. The majority of people are living in a hypnotic trance, an amnesic state of mind. It is proven that while watching TV, for example, within a few minutes we reach a deep state of trance, making us receptible for ads and advertisement. So to wake up from this dream-like state, we need a tool, and that tool is meditation. According to the Buddha, reality is an illusion, a dream, a mirage. So the aim of our life is to wake up from this dream. The Buddha called this illusion Mahamaya, similar to the English word the matrix. Many nowadays move away from orthodox religions. They find them childish and illogical. Why do we need religions at all? Some say religions or belief are for those who do not know. And in fact, religions have been used for thousands of years to control and enslave humanity. The very opposite of what a religion should actually be. But if we analyze the word religion, it actually comes from a Greek word called religare, which literally means to hold back progress, to hold you back. In the famous Kalama Sutra, the Buddha says this: don't believe anything only because you read it in a holy book, or a saint or a famous teacher said so. Or even I, the Buddha, says so. Do not believe anything, but examine it, find out for yourself, practice it, reason about it, think about it. And only after you yourself saw the positive effects of it, then take it as something good and positive. The Buddha was also called a Kalyana Mitra, not a guru who cannot be questioned. A Kalyana Mitra is a noble friend. He is a guide, but he can be always questioned. You can discuss anything with a Kalyana Mitra. Again, no blind belief, no authority belief involved. Buddhism is not a belief system. It is more like a philosophy, a path to enlightenment. So what is the right kind of Buddhism? The right kind of Buddhism is not the property of this or that sect. The right kind is not much concerned with sects at all. So we get nowadays this divide between Mahayana, Theravada, Vajrayana and Zen Buddhism. But all these groups are following the Buddha, respecting the Buddha as their founder. All meditate and try to reach stages of enlightenment. So we should see rather the common ground and not the differences. Sangha, the ideal Sangha, is a group of enlightened people acting together for the benefit of the world. Sanghas form a matrix. There are groups within groups to create a country without a territory. Albert Einstein said once this: the religion of the future will be a cosmic religion. It should transcend personal God and avoid dogma and theology, covering both the natural and the spiritual. It should be based on a religious sense, arising from the experience of all things natural and spiritual as a meaningful unity. So the religion of the future will be something like the deeper part of the Buddhist teaching, the Dhamma, the practical part of Buddhism. Enlightenment is nothing we have to find. It is simply this realization of reality. We are divine, or the Buddha nature is within us. All we have to do is to remove the barriers, the obstacles, and we will be free. Samsara is another word for the round of existences. We are born again and again. Each time we come here, we get entangled in worldly activities. Education, job, marriage, family, enjoyments, pension, old age, and we die. So again and again we wander through samsara. The aim of all this samsaric journey is spiritual awakening or spiritual growing up, to find peace, happiness, and realization. In every religion we get stages of spiritual growing up, like archaic level, magic, tribal level, mystic literal level, rational modern level, pluralistic level, integral level, and holistic level. In every religion we find all these 7 stages of spiritual growing up. The first stage is the archaic instinctive level. The level of basic survival, food, water, warmth, sex and safety have priority. It uses more habits and instincts just to survive. A distinct self is barely awakened or sustained. This is seen in first human societies, newborn infants or senile elders, or mentally ill people, starving masses or traumatized people. Approximately 0.1% of the adult population is on this level. The second level of spiritual growing up is called magical tribal level. It's the animistic level. Magical spirits, good and bad, omens, spirits, earth spirits, curses and spells are determining this level of spiritual growing up. They form usually into ethnic tribes. The spirits exist in ancestors and bond the tribe. Kinship and lineage establish political links. There is a name for every bend in the river, but no name for the river itself. Magical mystical spirits, dragons, beasts, and powerful people. Feudal lords protect underlings in exchange for obedience and labor. The basis for feudal empires, power and glory, enjoys self to the fullest without regret or remorse. A good example of this stage is voodoo. seen in voodoo like curses, blood oaths, ancient grudges, good luck charms, family rituals, magic, ethnic beliefs and superstitions. It is strong in third world settings, in gangs and tribes, seen in rebellious youth, feudal kingdoms, epic heroes, and so on. Unbelievably, but there is still about 30% of the population in the world is on that level, and they have about 6% of the power in the world. The third stage is the mystic literal level. Life has meaning, direction and purpose, with outcomes determined by an all-powerful other or order. This righteous order enforces a code of conduct based on absolutist and unwavering principles of right and wrong. Violating the code or rules has severe consequences. Following the code yields rewards for the faithful. The basis of ancient nations, law and order, impulsivity, control through guilt, concrete literal and fundamentalist belief, obedience to the rule of order, strongly conventional and conformist. This level necessarily also leads to radicalism. We can see this in Buddhism America, Confucian China, Singapore discipline, totalitarianism, codes of chivalry and honor, charitable good deeds, religious fundamentalism. Like in early Christianity, the Vatican, or nowadays in Islam. About 40% of the world's population are on this level, and they have about 30% of the power in the world. Number 4, the rational modern level. Scientific achievement, rational modern level. At this stage, the self escapes from the herd mentality and seeks truth and meaning in individualistic terms. Experimental, objective, mechanistic, operational, scientific in the typical sense. The world is a rational and well-oiled machine with natural laws that can be learned, mastered and manipulated for one's own purpose. Highly achievement-oriented, especially towards materialistic gains. The law of science, rule, politics, economy and human events. Manipulate Earth's resources for one's strategic gains. Basis of corporate states. Seen in the Enlightenment movement in Europe in the Middle Ages, Wall Street, emerging Middle Ages classes around the world, colonialism, Cold War, fashion industry, materialism, and so on. About 30% of the world population is on that level, and they have about 50% of the world's power. Then the next level, the fifth level, is the pluralistic postmodern level. Here, community, living together, human bonding, ecological sensitivity, networking. So the human spirit must be freed from greed, dogma and diversity. Feelings and caring are important, more important than rationality. Cherishing of the earth, Gaia, life. They are against hierarchy, establishes lateral bonding and linking, relational self. Group intermeshing. Emphasis is on dialogue, relationship, basis of value community. Reaches decisions through reconciliation or consensus. Refresh spirituality. Enrich human potential, pluralistic values, social construction of reality, diversity, multiculturalism. So all this falls into this group. The best example of this group is the hippie movement. It shows a great degree of affective warmth, sensitivity and caring for Earth and all its inhabitants. So it is seen in deep ecology, postmodernism, Netherlands, idealism, healthcare, humanistic psychology, liberation theology, World Council of Churches, Greenpeace, animal rights, ecofeminism, post-colonialism, political correctness, diversity movements, human rights issues, eco-psychology, and so on. About 10% of the world population are on that level. About 20% are on that level, and they have about 15% of the world power. Among the young people, the percentage is much higher, especially in Europe, America, and Western societies like Australia. So all these stages we had so far are called Tier 1. They are one big group. From now on we move on to Tier 2, which is not only next level, but a completely different group altogether. None of the first stages can fully appreciate the existence of the other stages. Each one thinks its worldview is the correct or best perspective. It reacts negatively if challenged. It lashes out, using its own tools whenever it is threatened. All of this begins to change with second-tier thinking, because second-tier consciousness is fully aware of the interior stages of development. It steps back and grasps the big picture, and thus appreciates the necessary role of the various other stages. Here awareness thinks in terms of the overall spiral of existence, and not merely in terms of any one level. So this is the big difference between Tier 1 and Tier 2. So the sixth stage is integral postmodern level. Life is of natural hierarchies or holarchy. Systems and forms, flexibility, spontaneity, and functionality have the highest priority. Differences and pluralities can be integrated in the interdependent natural flows. Knowledge and competency should supersede power, status, and group sensitivity. The prevailing world order is the result of the existence of different levels of reality, and the inevitable patterns of movement up and down the dynamic spiral. Only about 1% of the world population is on that highly advanced level, and they have about 5% of the world's power. The seventh stage, the highest, is holistic universal level. Waves of integrative energies unites feeling with knowledge, multiple levels interwoven into one conscious system. Universal order put in a living conscious fashion, not based on external rules or group bonds. A grand unification of possible in theory and in actuality. Sometimes involves the emergence of new spirituality as a meshwork of all existence. So holistic think the entire spiral, sees multiple levels of interaction, detects harmoniously and mystically all the forces together. Only 0.1% of the world population are on that level, and they have about 1% of the power. So with less than 2% of the population at the higher stages in Tier 2, and only 0.1% on the highest level, the holistic level, the second tier is relatively rare, because it is now the leading edge of collective human evolution. But it is the level yet to come to fruition. Next we have to decide or distinguish between spiritual growing up and spiritual waking up. First, spiritual growing up is narrative belief system. This type of religion relies primarily on spiritual intelligence in the path of growing up. But the most common of these religions are not on a particular high level in that line. Spiritual intelligence, how we think about, picture, view, or conceive ultimate reality. how we deal and relate to our ultimate concerns. Waking up, the second line of spirituality, this involves not spiritual intelligence but direct spiritual experience, and it results not in some heavenly spiritual thereafter or reincarnated heavens, but in a direct enlightenment or awakening, or metamorphosis is the here and now, in the here and now. Also, they are often found together and intertwined. These are clearly two profound different types and practices of spirituality. So spiritual growing up and spiritual waking up. Buddhism is in a very special position because it has to a great extent already that growing up part in it. So most of Buddhism and its teachings are already at least at a rational level. Also not all its followers are, since from the beginning it denied gods and goddesses, mystic divine creators, and spoke mostly in very straightforward reason terms. In addition to its profound teachings and systems of waking up, Buddhism is in a very, very special position. Also, one should mention here that Buddhism originally was not meant to be a religion at all. It was just a philosophy, a way of life, a practice, how to awaken your mind. So there is presently occurring a new development in the overall process of growing up itself. The last major cultural stage of development to occur in our history is the pluralistic postmodern. Starting in the 60s, but there's another more advanced stage, usually called the integral, which is picking up and starting off right now. So what is this integral stage of development and why is it so different? It is not just a new level, but an entirely different type of level. So what had all these previous stages in common? All of the previous stages shared one common trait. And that was that they all thought their stage is the best and highest. They could not fully appreciate and understand all the other stages. So the second stage sees the whole cycle. It understands that all the former stages are necessary for certain type of people. So this is a completely new level, a revolutionary development occurring right now. A spirituality that practically includes all spiritual practices that have to do with transformation of their own consciousness. Particularly if it helps them to get in touch with the ultimate divine. Not the mystic literal fairy tale, but the psychotechnology of consciousness transformation. In other words, they are definitely interested in paths of waking up, and that brings us to the second major type, the religions of waking up, the meditative, mystic traditions of the East. So awakening or enlightenment is known by many names. Some call it metamorphosis, moksha, satori, emancipation, salvation, the great liberation or nirvana. This was the province of the world's great meditative or contemplative traditions, the paths of the great liberation, the paths of waking up. Just as there is a great deal of similarities around the world in the major stages of growing up, there is a strong amount of general agreement as to the 4 to 5 major stages of waking up. Now usually the stages of waking up can be divided into 4. Number 1, cross purification. Number 2, subtle illumination. Number 3, dark night. And number 4, ultimate non-dual unity consciousness. So all these awakening systems start with cross purification, like virtue or even bodily cleaning up, preparation, getting body and mind ready for the spiritual practice. Subtle illumination, one makes first progress in meditation, one sees a glimpse of enlightenment. Number 3, the dark night, usually one falls back into, one faces the darker side of one's subconsciousness. So one fights through the dark night. And finally, number 4, real liberation, real enlightenment experiences. Usually the West stands for growing up, like in religions like Judaism, Christianity or Islam, while the East stands more for waking up, like in Hinduism or Buddhism. So in the West, religion largely means mystic stories about a grey-haired gentleman sitting on the throne in the sky. That's why so many people call themselves now spiritual but not religious, because they are no longer interested in these childish stories. 25% of the Americans and Europeans identify with the phrase spiritual but not religious. 75% of the younger people, 18 to 25, identify with that phrase, which means that they are not looking for childish stages anymore. They're looking for the deeper spiritual experiences. They want to wake up, they want to understand for themselves. So what we want, in short, is growing up to the highest stage in spiritual intelligence, namely the integral stage, and the highest stage of waking up in spiritual experience, namely non-dual unity consciousness. So all these stages, from archaic to magic to mystic, rational, pluralistic to integral, up to holistic, have to be experienced in one's samsara. We have to grow up spiritually and wake up in our meditation. The real problem in our modern day society is that 70% of the world population are in a magic mystical level, a lower level of spiritual growing up. So basically they are on a childish level of spiritual development, but they are the majority on the globe. They are the main force in our human society. So what has to be done? Awareness should be spread. We have to, not by force, but we have to help these people to grow up. They are stuck in a childish level. There are many higher levels, not in other religions. They can stay in their own religion and grow up within that religion. Even in Buddhism, we have a lot of cultural things around, like chanting, rituals, functions, customs, the dress. Nothing wrong with all these traditions. It makes it just more colorful, as long as we realize that this is not essential. And here lies the main problem. Because many traditions believe their rituals, their customs is the most important thing there is. And many stay with these rituals. They think this is their Buddhism. This is Buddhism for them, and they do not look, they are not interested in anything higher, like meditation or real practice. Like the Tibetan monks making a mandala. It's nice, it's beautiful, it is a sign of impermanence. So we can do all these rituals, we can do the chanting, nothing wrong with it, as long as we do not hurt others, and as long as we know that this is not the most important part of the Buddhist practice. For real awakening, we need a powerful tool, and that tool is called Vipassana meditation. It is a tool to understand our mind. We can understand how our mind is working, how our mind is functioning, and we can progress and reach stages of awakening. If we want to summarize the Buddhist teaching in 3 words, it would be Sila, Samadhi and Panya. Sila is virtue which you need as a basis for any kind of spiritual practice. Samadhi is concentration, meditation. You have to focus your mind. You have to make the mind strong and powerful. And Panya, wisdom, comes through vipassana or insight meditation. So you need the basis of virtue, of sila, you need concentration, samadhi, and you need vipassana to understand your mind and to attain wisdom. There is no wisdom without meditation. Meditation is the only path to awakening. Also, there are many different types of meditation and many can work. So there is, in one direction we have spiritual freedom, in the other we have spiritual worldly freedom. But actually it is so, if somebody is growing up, is reaching stages of awakening, he reaches spiritual freedom, then automatically worldly freedom will also happen around him. A spiritually free person will never accept to live in a tyranny or live as a slave. He will always demand more and more worldly freedoms as well. We had many revolutions fighting for worldly freedom, but the problem always was that the spiritual level was missing. So we have to start at the spiritual level, and only then we can get an advanced society. Whenever a society advances to a higher spiritual level, they also demand more worldly freedom. But you always have to start at the mental level. That's the most important point. In Buddhism, we use the word uttarimanussa Dhamma, a superhuman state of mind. So in Buddhism, the supernatural lies within, not outside. The Buddha nature is within us. That's why the Buddha said, Atta hi attano nato. You yourself liberate your mind. So know thyself, free your mind from your defilements. Clean up your mind, use the tool of meditation, and reach stages of enlightenment. Enlightenment means the realization that we are all infinite consciousness. Others may call it God, pure mind, moksha, Buddha nature, Mahasamadhi, or simply freedom. There are still realized saints around even nowadays. If wanderers who are members of other sects should ask you, what friend are the prerequisites for the development of the wings of self-awakening? You should answer thus. There is the case where a monk has admirable friends, admirable companions, admirable comrades. This is the first prerequisite for the development of the wings of self-awakening, according to the Buddha. Meaning noble friendship is the most important thing in our spiritual practice. Without associating noble friends, without being surrounded by noble, same-minded friends, it will be almost impossible to reach stages of enlightenment. So what is the purpose of our life? One can live 100 years without actually having lived at all. We can either just roll with our karmas and determine our life by our past karmic energies, or we can take our life into our own hands. We use the Dhamma and use the tool of vipassana meditation to understand our mind, to get an experience, and to free our mind from all suffering. So the real aim of our life is to understand, to get wisdom, to reach stages of awakening. Nibbanang Paramang Sukhang, another famous phrase of the Buddha, means Nibbana is the highest bliss, or enlightenment is the highest peace. There is no other worldly peace or pleasure which could match the pleasure or peace of enlightenment. So may you all be able to continue your Dharma practice. May you all be well and happy. May you be able to go deeper and deeper into your meditation, and may you all reach stages of awakening. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.